Saturday. Christmas comes early.
Unbelievable! Welcome to this incredible scene.
Bills.
To the end zone!
Chargers.
It's a touchdown!
An exclusive NFL game.
That's fantastic!
Live in primetime.
Wow!
Only on Peacock.
With a Christmas gift to their fans.
They're having some fun now.
Bills versus Chargers. Saturday, 7:30 Eastern. Exclusively on Peacock.
Apple Gift Card is a practical gift that unlocks a world of entertainment and fun. You can send it via email or give a physical card to your loved ones. Your friends and family can spend it on their favorite Apple services, including Apple subscriptions. Apple Gift Card can be used to buy all things Apple. Products, accessories, apps, games, movies, TV shows, iCloud Plus, and more. Visit apple.com for details and to send Apple Gift Cards to your friends and family this holiday season.
This episode is brought to you by Columbia Sportswear. It's snowing again, and that wind chill is killer. But you're not worried about that because you shop the Omni Heat Infinity Collection. It's warmth perfected with tiny gold dots that reflect your body heat inside and protect you from the cold outside. No snow or chilly temps can stop you now. Go out anyway. Shop the Omni Heat Infinity Collection now at Columbia.com/infinity.
The holidays are a time to feel and create joy. And what could be more joyous than the look on her face as she unwraps a stunning new jewelry piece from Blue Nile? How about getting 50% off your purchase? Blue Nile offers premium quality, priced below traditional retail. Their online experts are available 24/7 to answer any questions and make sure you've picked the perfect gift. For a limited time, you can get 50% off at BlueNile.com. That's 50% off at BlueNile.com.
Anything to shake this mood I'm in. My football team's got me drinking.
Back at it again with another shade of blue. My name is Cody Bradley. I am here with Thad Bell, Robert Russert, and David Greenwald. Together we make up part of the Blue Testament, SB Nation's The Blue Testament. And we are recording together in person again. We're getting used to this. We're getting better at this. I hope you think we're sounding better. It is Monday night. I think we're going to try to do 2 pods in one. We're going to talk about Colorado. We're going to talk about Houston. And we're going to just cover all bases here. So I have some things to talk about from this game. But I want to start off with kind of where I was at last week, honestly, looking at the offense. So Thad, tell me if I'm justified in my worry about the Sporting KC offense thus far.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool. Pod
Does
over.
that make you feel
right?
better?
Done. Is that all we needed to do? Well, why? What's the problem? Tell me what's going on.
They're not in sync yet. They've played the first game they played. They were definitely not in sync. The second game they played, they were playing a team that basically for the first half, 9 or 10 of those guys, heat map would have them inside the box. So they were incredibly difficult to break down. Our one lone center forward, Khiry Shelton's strength is not that. If it's more open game, that's going to be more of his strength, at least running up and down and breaking stuff up.
But those to me seem like excuses for why we shouldn't be worried. Like, oh, everything's fine. There was just 2 rough games here. But I'm kind of worried about scoring goals the rest of the season.
Well, that's why I was trying to give a full account. I'm trying not to be like one side or the other. I'm trying to be a little fair in how I describe this, right? So that's why I was saying it that way. They still have to prove that they're going to be banging in goals. Daniel had some nice shots that didn't go in. Johnny had some good efforts that weren't that close, but, were good efforts.
Johnny's tricks seem to be working again this year, right? He
Somewhat.
He moves into the box, and I still fully believe that something is going to go our way. It only has to go half right. And so I like Johnny's tricks this year. But the other 2 on that front line.
Again, Khiry is not going to excel in that kind of game. I don't think he's at 100%. I think there's something going on. I just feel he's not at 100% right now.
I would agree with that.
And he's not going to be a break the bunker down kind of guy. That's not his strength. I know a lot of people don't think he has any strengths, but he does.
David, tell us what's going on with this offense.
Well, I mean, Khiry is certainly a step down from Pulido, but I think we're going to have to essentially crowdsource our goals this year. So I'm still a Daniel Shalloway believer. I'm a Johnny Russell believer. But I think what we saw this weekend was that Remi Walter is a lot more dangerous playing out of the 6 than Ilie or even Uri Rosell is. And so if we can get a handful of goals out of Remi, Felipe Hernandez is potentially dangerous. Cam Duke is going to get some more minutes. Tzionis is going to get more minutes. I think if each one of them starts to get 3-4 goals somewhere in there, it's going to make up for the loss of Pulido, which, by the way, and we've talked about this on the site before, Pulido's overall contribution last year was not that big, right? I think he had 8 goals and 2 were PKs.
Yeah,
I think was what this, and that's because he just wasn't in the lineup enough. So I'm not particularly worried about the offense. It doesn't look great, but from this game, we're playing against a team that didn't want the ball. Houston played like a team that wanted to come in and lose 1-0. Mm-hmm. They just bunkered and bunkered. They started how many defensive midfielders? And so that's tough for anybody to break down.
It's becoming Paulo's MO, I guess. That's just that's his coaching style.
Well, I don't, which is kind of funny because I was gonna interrupt, but you led right into it. While I was driving there, I was listening to Sirius Satellite Radio, and they had an interview with Pat Onstad, the Houston GM. Talked about how they hired Naga was because it was a great interview over Zoom and all this other stuff, but because they knew he could coach like Peter Vermees does, possession style and all this other stuff. And I didn't really see their first game, so I can't really attest to which way that one went. But I came there expecting, it's going to be kind of a fun, open game. Okay, both teams will be trying to possess. There'll be some chances created. There'll be people turned over, and SKC should win that one 3-1, right? And I get there, and everybody's in the box just defending. I'm like, wait a minute, that is not the bill of goods I was just sold by their GM.
I guess in theory he's waiting for Hector Herrera to show up, and then they can finally start trying to score goals, maybe.
But I got thinking about this. Who better in any coach in the league knows how to frustrate Sporting KC? Naga's been sitting there watching all of this. He's been there when they've tried to figure out how to break this down and fix the situation. He's coached the 2 team against the first team, probably doing exactly that same thing. He knows, and slow rolling the ball, goalies taking their time wasting. He knows all of that frustrates and ticks off Peter and the players. So of course he was going to do that.
Well, now I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying, but I would also say that I think mostly everyone has figured out that works in Children's Mercy Park against Sporting.
I agree, but he probably knows all the intricacies of how it mostly, how to best take advantage of that.
He takes it to another level, I think.
Yeah, he knew exactly what to do to frustrate that. So going back to, the offense not creating a ton of goals in this game, he knew how to break that up.
David, you mentioned Tzionis. I wanted to talk about the Peter Vermees' use of subs. I like to get a reference in there whenever we can because people like to hate on him for that. But I think he used subs quite effectively in this one. Tzionis came on and was very good. This is just talking before the show here. I think this is a very Tzionis-heavy podcast here. I think we're big fans.
I think Robert wants to say something about that.
He's been sitting quiet and polite.
2 subs is effective use? Okay.
Well, I think the subs were effective.
Okay. All right.
I think they could have been. Again, I am usually not a Vermees has to sub all the time kind of guy, but I think it could have been more effective in this game. They had Duke coming over, ready to come in for a while, and I'm like, okay, he's coming in for Roger because I thought Roger was looking a little tired. And then he came in for Felipe when he finally did come in. When Shelton went down, it wasn't a planned sub. When he went down, they called Tzionis over right away. Okay, so I mean, I was sitting on that end. I could see exactly who came from and when.
I'm not gonna lie. First, I'm hearing about the Khiry Shelton injury. I was not aware of that. I missed that entirely somehow.
Well,
yes, you did.
He sat down on the ground and stopped playing.
Yeah, missed that entirely. Thank you for refreshing me.
They did say that it was not an injury and he just thought he was tired, but it may have been a cramping or something. So we don't know. Won't probably know for a while, but.
You guys were all at the game. Did you experience the same thing I did? Of the crowd still clearly just dislikes Khiry Shelton. I was listening to Khiry hate that entire game. It was mostly dumb, mostly unfounded hate, but there was a lot of it.
Oh, yeah, the section that David and I and we're in. Definitely had Shelton hatred going on, but I was looking at the post on your match recap, Cody. Andy Wacker, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Andy, but he made some good comments about Khiry. He does what Vermees wants him to do. He's not a guy who's going to take a lot of shots and, get a lot of goals. He's moving around, creating space for others, coming back for the ball and creating space behind him. And that's what Peter wants him to do. And I get that. I want a lot more out of a striker, as most people do, but I think Khiry does the job that he's asked to do.
Yeah, I mean, look, Khiry is what he is, which is probably about a replacement level striker, right? But we're waiting on Thad's guy, Nikola Vanovic.
Oh, it's Thad guys now. Okay.
Thad's guy, Nikola, who's, waiting on his visa to come in. So for all the people who are worried about Khiry in the offense, we do have reinforcements. We have a guy that, is admittedly Montenegro and not an England international, but, an international who's scored against good teams, who's just waiting to get into the country. One note on the subs, though, is that, and I think this is a criticism that Vermees deserves, but if you look at who made our bench, I'm not sure what subs there were to make, right? We had Ozzy Cisneros, Duke, Pierre, Sweat, Veloter, Ford, Tzionis, Poolskamp, and Jake Davis, right? So, in a game where we're winning 1-0 and we're going to try and hang on for a clean sheet, the defense is playing, I'd say, pretty well. Are we really looking to sub on a fullback? Are we looking to sub on a center back? So the options then become really limited on who there is to bring in to make any sort of impact change.
Yeah, and in the midfield, they are missing a would-be starter in Gadi Kinda, so one of the potential subs that he would bring on is already starting. So
Exactly.
And Uri Rosell.
Right.
So 2 of the 3 potential starters in that midfield were not there because of injury. Speaking of injuries, when Zusi went down, did you notice who he called to come sub in?
Zusi called a specific player?
No, when Zusi went down, do you know who PV called?
No, I do not.
It was not Pierre. It was Sweat.
Really?
And I was like, I noticed that because he come running over and he was getting his jersey ready to put on, and Zusi was able to stand up and finish out the game. But it wasn't Pierre, so I don't know if that just he doesn't feel Pierre is quite ready, or he just felt the veteran presence was needed there, But it was just an observation point. It wasn't a criticism of Pierre or the decision. It was just a observation point for later.
Yeah, no, that's a good spot there, and it's especially interesting because at Media Day, all of us saw what we thought was Pierre, potentially like working with a starting back line there for a little bit. Yeah. So yeah, now I guess we can, assume that Caden Pierre is maybe number 3 on that depth chart.
Yeah, he might still be number 2, but it may be if like I said, it may have just been a veteran presence to close out a game. If it was a starting thing, it might have been still Pierre. But that's why I was warning you, don't take too much into account for him being out there with on that day, because I think Zusi was just resting.
I do think both subs made a great impact, though. And this leads to, the million-dollar question, the reason Vermees gets paid to do this and we don't, which is that as much as everybody wants to see more and more of Cam Duke, there's a question as to whether or not Cam Duke is more effective as a super sub off the bench, coming with fresh legs. He's so dynamic. And Tzionis had the same thing, which is they were so dynamic on the ball. Their ability to turn in tight spaces, their ability to kind of weave in and out of defenders, it drew 2 yellow cards. Each one drew a yellow card. And Cam Duke was like that last year. He's just a foul magnet. So I think there's a big debate. Do you start him and let him just run himself into the ground and then sub on Roger for some stability to close out a game? Or are you better off having Roger or Remi or whomever else playing in one of the dueling eights and then bringing Cam on late to really change the dynamic of the game?
Well, that's a good question there. Do we like Roger starting or Roger coming off the bench?
How about we don't bring Duke on for Felipe and we bring Duke on for Roger? That's another question right there. Although again, Felipe may not be 90-minute game fit because of layoff from last year, but still having I shouldn't say from last year, but maybe just not there yet.
I think an argument for Espinoza starting is to stabilize the midfield. We've got Remi playing at the 6, that wasn't planned. We've got somebody like Hernandez playing the other 8, so his experience maybe can solidify the game as we start off, and then do the sub later on to get more of an attacking verve if that's what we need, or relieve his tired legs too. So that's a possibility.
I wanted to focus some time on Remi Walter playing at the 6 that we were not ready for. I'd let my dog bark and clear out of the room really quick.
Isn't that a fine?
That should be a fine. That's a fine. Yes, that is a fine. And that's another.
Will she pay it?
every bark, I'll pay another $1.
Oh, I think she owes it somehow.
That's a valid point. She doesn't have a job, though, is the issue.
But yeah, I mean, Remi at the 6, I mean, he shanked that one shot shortly before he scored and put one away.
One of the worst shots in Sporting Kansas City history.
Yeah, that was pretty sad.
No. Have you seen Roger play?
Yeah.
I love Roger, but yeah, I mean, I've seen some of his go like off the corners.
That's true. That's
But
very
no,
true.
Remi was more than rock solid. I think he's almost commanding in that position there. Of course, he didn't have as much to do against the bunker and have everything in front of him, which is nice for a 6 especially. But yeah, I think he acquitted himself well for sure.
Yeah, I thought he did well. While Cody is wrangling puppies, what do we think of Tzionis? I mean, what good, bad?
Well, okay, I'm gonna say a bad. You guys can say the good, and that's fine. I've got a
go
good
ahead.
too. But dribbling out of the back is a habit that I don't want to see him continue. I mean, that can not be good. Can pay for that. So, but otherwise, yeah, did well.
Speaking of paying for that, here is $1 for the fine jar.
I'm glad the dog contributed. I will say I liked a lot of what Tzionis did, but he was very visibly not knowing what to do. So, like, there was times you could see him like, look, okay, where am I at? Where do I need to be? Looking for some clue of what he needed to do because he wasn't used to the system, which is understandable. I mean, this is not blaming him in any way, shape, or form, but that's just, again, reason he's not going to be starting anytime soon. He needs to learn the system, and he's going to be getting minutes to forcibly learn it, I know, but...
And he's much more of an attacking player than a defending player, and there's a lot of defending going on when he was in there.
Yeah, just a reminder, he is still only 20.
Yeah.
So, yes,
he's not had hardly any practices.
You clarified and made that point well, but I just want to, make sure to drive that home. New guy in a different country in a new league, and he's only 20 years old. So,
Again, it's not to label him as a failure by any means. It's just recognizing the weakness of having him out there at any one point. That's what he's got to learn.
I'm going to actually disagree with you guys. I think he acquitted himself really well, especially for a guy who's 20, new to the league, late arriver. He didn't get to he didn't have a full camp with us. He didn't have a full preseason with us.
He hardly had any camp.
Right. So, there are some spacing issues, right? But that's also, I think, one of the benefits of the manner in which he plays is that he tracks back. And I've watched him in some of these European games with this article that I swear is coming. It's just, someday I'll put this article on our site. But Tzionis is willing to fully defend the entire field. He makes hard runs back to get into good positions regardless of kind of where he is in the attacking third. He made a huge lung-busting run in the Champions League against Zagreb on what should have been a breakaway and probably a goal eventually for Zagreb. So in our game against Houston, he and Dembe were kind of playing on top of each other because he had tracked back so far to defend. And so there are some spacing issues that need to be worked out, but I see that as a good thing, that he's a willing defender, that he's interested in and committed to that. Robert, to your point, I agree that dribbling out of the back when you're getting pressed real hard late in the game is not always good, but I think that's a problem that our entire team has. The number of times I've seen Zusi and Melia playing, passing back and forth to each other while we're getting pressed into a corner only to, hoof it out of bounds when we could have, put it up the field, a couple passes earlier, it would drive me nuts. So I think ultimately, if Khiry's injury is more of a long-term thing and it is an injury, just like Polito's knock was not just a knock. And until Vunjevic gets here, I think we're going to see a lot more of Tzionis on the field.
I hope so, for sure. I mean, there's a moment there where he let her break, and it's like everybody got up on the edge of their seat because they could see him and Denbe, and we had Sarloui up top. So, yeah, potential.
Yeah, he transitions into the attack very quickly, very nicely. And one of those times he tried to dribble out of the back, he did successfully basically run 2/3 of the field with that ball before getting taken down. So
I'm calling it now. My guy, my replacement guy, if Daniel leaves, is Tzionis.
All right, so I mean, we had a 1.5 expected goals, guys. And my thought going into this whole conversation was the shots we got weren't really that great. I mean, Shallowy had one at a very tough angle that he didn't put in, which he puts in maybe 1 out of 5 times. Other shot that he had, again, was at a difficult angle. He would have had precisely put it inside the far post if he's going to score. And again, 1 in 3 maybe on that one. But we didn't get that great of opportunities. Remember Shallowy's juggle at the top of the box and his volley. That was one of the shots on goal we got. That was, again, a 1 in 10 maybe that goes in. So the shots we had weren't that great, the chances.
1 in 10 is probably about right. I remember when I saw that, I was like, there was a scenario where that ball goes in the net. It just wasn't, there wasn't very many of them.
Yeah. We also had a back post header that probably should have been buried. Wasn't that from the training
Izzy?
ground
for Khiry? Because they did one where it was a set piece and they played it over to Zusi and he chipped it far post. It was clearly like a set piece for Khiry and it just didn't come off.
I thought it was Izzy at the back
It was
post.
Izzy, yeah.
Oh well, there was definitely one for Khiry at the beginning
you're
of
right.
the game.
You're right. Yeah.
yeah, there was definitely one for Izzy too, because I very clearly remember that because I basically got a good shot of his ass.
Oh, good.
And that's good. I would rather Izzy's our best header, right?
Yeah.
Izzy over Khiry if you need
Yes.
a header to win it all.
Everybody over Khiry
easy.
in the air. Me over Khiry in the air.
No, like literally though.
Ozzy
At
Cisneros.
what point on the team who does Khiry beat out? It can't go that far down the list. He's tall. Like it can't go that far down the list.
And he jumps really high.
yeah.
He also jumps 7 seconds too soon
Or too late.
and can't angle
And
his head.
that's what happened in that first play. He jumped way too soon and clearly they were like, "Okay, well let's go to Izzy next time."
No, see, he's part of the decoys. He jumps early to get
Right.
the defense going
Yeah.
up. So they're all coming down when the ball's going over top of their head for the next guy in the line.
That's right.
It's part of a plan. It's
3D
carefully
chess.
calculated.
Well, hey, okay, going back to the goal that we did score, Khiry did make a
5.
good dummy. That was a nice dummy to leave that ball back. So well done, Khiry.
And credit where credit's due for that. But this happened last year where Khiry made a good dummy and we scored a goal. And I made a comment on the site that, that was a great dummy by Khiry, and I can't remember who it was. I'll just credit Cheese Bro, because why not? And he was basically like, if the best play that your striker made was not kicking the ball, you got problems.
Right.
That's valid.
And again, we are a Kyrie-friendly pod. We love the guy.
Great.
I like him more than the guy that I heard yelling in the cauldron. Why isn't he in the 6-yard box when the ball was not even in the final third? There's some people, they just don't, they're allowed to yell the same. Their voice carries the same in the cauldron as anyone else's.
Yeah, I try to so much tune that stuff out. But, speaking of people who don't know much about soccer,
I'm sure they're all listening to this podcast.
I would, I'll trust Naga over you. But just listening, I went back and listened to the broadcast on the Twitter stream version of the broadcast, so it had whoever the announcers were.
Yeah, my guy Chris Whittingham did very well.
Yeah.
I enjoyed
Well, whoever it was, they obviously weren't paying attention to the video because they were asking why that guy got a yellow card when the ref clearly said, dude, pointed out like 5 occasions around the field and showed him the yellow. And they're like, well, that was really not a foul. I don't know why. That was a really soft yellow. I'm like, no, you dumbasses.
Persistent infringement.
And then whoever was doing the LAFC game, they're talking about Latif Blessing. Well, he just couldn't catch on in Kansas City, but Bob Bradley really was able to pull him out. Do you not know anything about this guy? But you're talking very authoritatively about it. And that was just one of my pet peeves. Like, these guys are paid to do this stuff, and
Man,
should
that's
probably stop ranting.
Latif was like, that was so long ago now at this point that like that common knowledge might have faded away. Now it's just, you just look back and you see, oh, well, Sporting didn't want him in the expansion draft and LA got him. You could see how they would arrive at that. And I'm pointing out that we're getting old. How long ago was that? Latif Blessing left us. That was probably 5-6 years ago, right?
0 in the Open Cup.
2017 Open Cup he scored, right?
Yep. Better in the air. He scored with his head.
So since
Better than
2017.
Kyrie in the air.
Since 2017. There you go. 4 years. Five.
I've eaten sandwiches taller than Latif. Better in the air than Kyrie.
Hey, we haven't talked about Logan and Denbe
Yes, that is literally the last thing on my list here. Logan and Denbei.
I liked his positioning, his recovery. I think on the attack, I think he's just getting used to things, and he'll get a little more aggressive as things go. But
you also liked his calves.
Yes, he crosses the ball so much more on a line than Luis Martins did, and I like it.
And the calves.
And the calves.
He does have
commenting on his legs at the media day.
Yeah.
He's the one who started commenting on his legs today, not me.
He's got a look about him, and if you have not listened, Robert and I did interview him and Remi together. Gave Remi the goal boost. I'm gonna claim that one. So yeah, go check out that podcast.
If nobody scores this week, they need to provide us some people that could be shooting on goal to interview to start that good run again.
Could be shooting on goal.
Cody, what country is Ndembe from?
Get it right, Cody. Get it right.
Yeah, go back and listen to me call him a Frenchman in the interview. But I'm gonna. Can I blame someone else, or is that? I think that's a fine if I blame somebody else.
Did he call you out on it?
No, he was They were both very polite. They were both very polite. I did mistakenly call him a Frenchman. He is Belgian, played in France, speaks French. And we were not. I was flustered. Okay,
so you weren't that.
We
far
were not
off.
planning. We were not planning on interviewing them at the same time. They both, and then Kurt Austin is like, "Oh, you should get them both together." And then it was just like, "Oh, the two French-speaking guys," and then it was just the French was in my head. And yes, I ran with it. I was flustered. We didn't have enough mics, but you know what? Like I said, we're getting better. And yes, I can wear that shame that I called him a Frenchman, and I'll apologize profusely next time we have him on.
It all worked out.
And France and Belgium is pretty close.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be like a 92% on Wordle.
Yeah. Oh, good shout there. You're nice and trendy. You playing Wordle?
Yeah. Wordle, and
Are you guys playing
Birdle.
those games? I'm not playing. I haven't played any of them. So I don't know. Everyone's posting these things on Twitter. I don't know what it means. I have no idea what it means.
I got Wordle in 2 yesterday.
That sounds good, but again, I don't know what it means.
This is a good off pod tutorial I'll give you.
Again, guys, this is the conversations I live for. So I know you're like, we should probably get back to soccer, but this is the kind of shit that I want to talk about.
So Wordle, Birdle, which is all music related, like choir orchestra type of music.
Oh, I thought you were like real nerdy and identifying birds.
No. Birds are for eating, not for identifying.
Where'd that Missouri Conservationist magazine go? Where was that at?
Also, Nerdle, which is a kind of math version of Wordle.
Ooh, pass.
And
okay, maybe I'll give this game a shot now that I know Thad is in it. I respect Thad's opinion.
There's Quordle and Octortle, and so it's like 4 games at once and 8 games at once.
Now you're making shit up.
Yeah, it sounds
no, man. There's also one for swear words.
Oh,
I would do really well at that.
I've
so
not
would the
done
people
that one
behind
too much.
us on the
That's right.
stadium. Yeah.
All right, the last thing I had on here, I don't know if we talked about it quite enough. All of us at Media Day, we were talking about our high hopes and how this is a big season and a big moment for Felipe Hernandez to take major strides. He got the start yesterday. There was at least one moment he turned and got the ball right outside the box, and his first instinct was to go towards goal, and it was a terrible shot, but I liked that. And I was curious as to what you guys saw from him, if you saw anything that either made you more optimistic or less optimistic for his season this year.
I thought he did pretty good. I thought he still looked a little rusty because just some things were not as good as he was last year before he had to stop. But I do like him. I think he has that potential to claim a spot if he gets back to what he was doing last year and grows from there.
I mean, I thought our whole attack, and this is Hernandez included, just need to do a better job of making the Houston back line make decisions, exploit gaps that were there and use those spaces. So I was disappointed overall. I thought Hernandez was but there were some flashes.
I liked what I saw from Felipe. He had 4 successful dribbles out of 6 attempts. The next was Daniel, who had 3 dribbles out of 3 attempts, and nobody else came even close. So he was carrying the ball forward. I thought defensively he looked pretty good. He had a pretty decent success rate on his pressures. Only Remi in the midfield was better at pressuring the ball as he came through the midfield, and he and Remi were able to chop up the play better than Roger was. So I think he's growing back into kind of where he was last year, and he's still pretty young, but I think he looked really good. He looked like he belonged as a starter on the field.
There was a play where he is probably one of the dribbles he didn't complete successfully. It looked to be pretty much directly down the middle, and I'm not sure how far out from the box. Probably maybe halfway to the center circle. I'm not totally sure because I was on the far side, but I was watching it specifically, and he lost the ball, but he was up and chasing that ball back down, and he won it back 10 yards back towards his own goal. But he prevented them from making use of that of him having lost that ball. If some guy named Maury had done that, he'd still be here.
Okay, shall we wrap up the Houston game? Put this 1-0 ugly win behind us. David, did we prepare any? I'm sorry, I'm putting you on the spot here. Did we prepare any Cauldron Facebook page dramatic readings from this last game?
We did not.
We did not.
We did not.
Let's just say that I'm assuming that the Cauldron Facebook page behaved. There were all a bunch of reasonable reactions to this game, and everyone loved Khiry Shelton and the whole team's performance. So that's why
no doubt about it.
So that's why there's none from this week.
No doubt about it. What'd you guys think of the tifo?
Good tifo.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Good tifo. Little before my time, but my sister liked it.
There you go.
The flyover was a little askew.
Little askew. Thank you for saying that.
Askew.
Yeah,
it was not over the middle of the stadium.
Wordle man.
It wasn't from corner to corner. It wasn't from end to end. It was it went right over top of me sitting on the end line.
There are people that in the Cauldron that couldn't see it because of the roof. I guarantee you. It was that far. It was that far to one side.
Yeah. The south stand.
And damn, doesn't it take a lot of people to fly that big plane? Yeah. Jeez.
No, the Cauldron. It was on the Cauldron side.
No, it was on the south stand side. It went right over my head.
Oh, then maybe maybe it was way higher than we were thinking, and it's just a weird effect because it definitely went right over the Cauldron.
David, I remember it going right over us.
Yeah,
to the east side.
Yeah,
to the west side. I mean,
well, that's like the thing. Did you guys ever do this when you were little? Like you stand in one spot and you look up at the moon, and then you go to the other side of the field, and the moon is directly above you. Still,
right? Exactly.
I think that's a situation that we're talking about here.
So maybe it wasn't as askew.
So maybe we're just dead wrong. It went right over the middle of the stadium, and we were all wrong about it. Okay, let's talk about Colorado Rapids.
Let's do it. Can I start?
I have a good. Oh God, Robert is ready here. I have a good stat to get us started here.
Robert was squirmy, man.
As a new segment,
Ooh,
we have a stats pro that is a part of the Blue Testament. Mike Kuhn, stats whiz. He's a Sporting KC encyclopedia, and we've asked him for a stat to get our discussion going this week. And shout out to Mike. You can follow Mike if you're not already, which I assume you are, at Down the Byline. That is Mike Kuhn. And the stat for the week is quite shocking. It sounds right in my head, but it's still shocking to me. Sporting Kansas City is winless in the last 8 trips to Colorado Rapids. 8.
Well, shit.
The last win was in 2014.
Question is, how many of them were draws, though?
Well, I don't know. Mike didn't provide me with that.
Why did you not ask that? That's relevant. I mean, 6 trips, 6 of the 8 are draws. I mean, that's not great, but it's also not terrible away on the road.
Yeah, but that makes it less of a fun stat to go with.
Yeah, but somebody like me is going to ask the question, right?
I think there have been a lot of draws, but still, Colorado. Come on, we're in our heads we're just way better than Colorado, right?
Well, hey, they beat Atlanta 3-0 this weekend, so
that is. Colorado is also 1-1. They lost to LAFC in week 1 and then beat Atlanta United 3-0, 3-0.
Yeah,
Shut them out 3-0 last week.
Didn't they get killed in CCL also?
Yeah. Well, they lost to PKs.
And lost in PKs.
In the snow.
Very dramatically.
Yeah.
Well, that should be their jam, though.
You would think. I mean, but they lost to LAFC 3-0. They beat Atlanta 3-0. So we are either going to win or lose 3-0.
Is that how that
works? We're not
works?
playing Austin. Dang. But anyway, our friend Diego Rubio had a hell of a game in Commerce City this past weekend.
Is that why you were so eager to talk about this?
Yes, and I mean, buddy, in a sarcastic way. Scored the first goal and then played playmaker on the second and the third, playing your favorite position, Cody.
False nine?
False nine. That's right.
For the record, not my favorite position.
Keeper.
Keeper is by far my favorite.
Run the tape back. You went on like a 5-minute thing about.
Oh, it's very weird. I'm fascinated. That's what he was referencing. I'm fascinated by the existence of the false nine.
Exactly.
I don't know that it is my favorite thing, though.
Cody's still trying to figure out what the false nine actually is.
Isn't everyone? It's literally called the false nine. I don't think anyone knows what it is. That's a mystery.
That's
That's
what
the point
Khiry
of it.
Shelton plays.
It's literally the point of it.
What it really is when you put a guy up there who's not even remotely striker-like, and that's the false nine.
My point.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. You could define it like that.
There's a lot of other stuff you could say about it.
You could also be striker-like and play a false nine. You don't have to be an opposite of a striker.
But usually they would be called strikers.
God damn it.
In case nobody knows, I just like to mess with Cody.
Yes, it's pick on Cody day tonight, I guess.
It's not pick on Cody day.
No, but I think this is a game where I think our offense, our attack is going to be a little more loose. They're not at home. They're not going to be playing against a bunkering side, most likely. I think they're going to have a little more freedom to break out in this game. So I'm hoping that's what happens.
All right. So since Cody did not ask the question of Mike earlier, I did. And according to Mike, we're 0-4-4 in the last 8 there.
Okay.
And it says we lost 4 straight, but we have since drawn 4 straight there. So that's not so bad.
Okay.
Now, again, this is stats according to Mike, so if there's any incorrectness about it, we will not blame Mike because he's too damn good about all that other stuff. So
I love this. We can never get Mike on the show, but if you text him while recording, he responds immediately.
No, I have a hotline. It's like the red phone to Russia, except that probably doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, turn that one off.
David, you haven't said much, my man.
We keep interrupting him. He just don't give him a chance to talk.
David,
I'm
go.
just trying to pick out which guy to shit on this week. We did it the first week. We shit on Dom Dwyer. We did it last week, shitting on Paulo. I'm picking Diego this week. Actually, I'm picking the whole front line. Jonathan Lewis sucks. Diego Rubio sucks. Michael Barrios. They're all trash.
How about the guy with the crazy hair? Who's the center back with the crazy hair for Colorado?
Lalas Abubakar.
Yes.
Is he center back or right?
Well, they play back 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a defender.
He's a defender.
Don't they have to get so precise? It's not like a false 9.
Point to David for nailing that name very confidently. He didn't hesitate. He just ran right through it and nailed it. Well done.
It's like top 5 name in the league. It's a good one.
Yeah, but the question is, would Rubio wear a Yankees hat?
Why is that the question? Oh,
because David's wearing a Yankees hat.
I had to look up for a second and actually look David in the face. How does that? Are you from New York? Where did this come from?
My dad's from New York. And so it's a long story, but it involves the Royals being very bad when I was a child.
No.
And
Or bad when I was a child, too.
and a young David not understanding the NFL salary cap rules. And so when Joe Montana retired and Marcus Allen left, as a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, I didn't understand why they couldn't be replaced with comparable talent.
Because the Yankees do that.
And so I thought, the Royals are trash. The Chiefs are just like the Royals. And so it was just easier to root for the New York Giants and the Yankees. Then I'm a Knicks fan, though, so it's not a bandwagon thing because, the Knicks, it's just suffering.
You have a loose connection. I'll allow it.
Thanks.
I'll allow it.
Cody's the authority here.
I just heard another message come in from Thad's phone, and I'm not going to find him if he tells us what the text said.
I do want to hear what David has to say about Mr. Rubio, though. I
Yes.
interrupted. Sorry.
Interrupted for the 5th time.
Well, so here's the thing. Colorado, they lost a lot, right? They lost Kellen Acosta, and that's a huge, huge loss for them in the midfield. But they still have talented players. So they've got Mark Anthony Kaye, who was really good with the LAFC, who was pretty good last year for Colorado. They've got Jack Price, who has not only a great beard, but is a really talented midfielder. They've got a solid back line. Austin Trusty's really good. Keegan Rosenberry's a wing back, but is a good defender. Lalas Abubakar is really good. And then they've got a lot of pace up top. Michael Barrios is what he is. He's really fast. He's really annoying. He will score 3 times a year.
Annoying is the word that comes to my head when I think of Barrios.
And Diego is the same player he's always been, right? There are games in which Diego's very, very good, like he was this past weekend against Atlanta. And then there's games where, he's Dom Dwyer-ish. He falls down a lot. He cries a lot. He doesn't do a whole lot.
But he's nicer.
I mean, is he?
Yes, he is.
Okay, well,
As a human.
that's good. That's good.
All right, we got predictions?
3-0.
Oh, yeah, you already predicted that. You don't have a winner, but 3-0 is going to be the final score.
I think that's more impressive.
Yeah, but who? Come on. Flip a coin.
I think it's a 1-1 draw.
I was going to say, I don't think either team is going
Chickened
to
out.
score 3 goals.
1-1 draw does actually sound pretty darn fair.
2-0, Sporting KC.
2-1 Sporting Kansas City.
Who scores?
2-1 is that's my, when I'm too afraid to make a actual prediction, I always say 2-1. 2-0. Who scores? Fontes and Tzionis.
I agree with Tzionis, and I'm going with Johnny Russell.
Tzionis and Johnny Russell. You actually, I meant to clip this audio out and make fun of you for it in one of these episodes. You said Johnny Russell the other day. Well, you definitely flared up Johnny Russell unnecessarily, like you were gonna say Tzionis.
Felipe.
Felipe gets on the board.
And he goes on a run. Scores 3 of the next 5 games. Cements his spot in the midfield. Dares Peter to sub him off. I know I'm full of shit, but
So could we see Shallowy play center forward with Tzionis and Russell? Or we just see it late in the game again?
We might have to.
If Kyrie's hurt.
yeah, if Kyrie's hurt, you might. But I actually think they'll go with something else. I think they leave Daniel and Johnny alone, and then put in Cam or Tzionis or I don't know who else, but
Yeah, Tzionis can play all 3 across the front line, so yeah.
'Cause I think he would be, if he was coming in and he just had that mission to be creative in the middle, I think he'd probably be pretty good at it. You don't need as much coordination other than as soon as the ball's turned over, press.
All right, fellas. Thad, you want to wrap us up with something prophetic?
If I was a tree, I would live in a forest.
Boom.
Don't seem so tough. And 3 own goals ain't all that rough. Our skipper has just been sent off. Supporters strong have all gone soft. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. Give me beer or whiskey, wine or gin, anything to shake this mood I'm